It's the Accounting Influencers podcast with me, Rob Brown, bringing you leaders and experts all over the world from the domain of accounting and finance. And they don't come much more influential than the head of the AICPA and CIMA in the United States. We are thrilled to have with us today, Okorie Ramsey. Good day to you, sir.
Good day, Rob. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Now, that title sounds very grand. Is your job as glamorous as it sounds?
You know, it's a wonderful job, and it's a immense responsibility, but also a wonderful opportunity as well. And I'm glad to be in this space. We have a global board, that really supports the profession worldwide, and we're doing work that ultimately supports approximately 700,000 members across the world. So for me, it is something that it's a huge role, but it's also one that is kind of done while I'm also doing my day job, which is my day job is to be the Vice President of Sarbanes Oxley for Kaiser Permanente, which is a $97 billion integrated healthcare system out of the U.S., but we're kind of around domestically.
You must have more hours in your day than the rest of us mortals.
Not even. It's just that maybe a little less sleep than many, but at the end of the day, it works out well.
So when your role as chair, Okorie, what are the 2 or 3 main priorities on your list of things to do right now?
Thank you, Rob. So my 3 priorities, which are aligned with our CIMA president as well, who is Sarah Ghosh, those 3 themes are advancing innovation within the profession, to instill trust and integrity in such areas as sustainability, and then also to support the next generation of accountants and giving them equitable opportunities to succeed.
Wow, there's so much to go into there. How innovative is the accounting profession as a whole? Because we look at something like double entry bookkeeping, very simply, basically, it's been that way forever. And accountants' monthly recurring fees, public accounting, there's not a whole lot of incentives for them to change beyond what's mandated by law. But then we're in crazy times. The need to innovate has never been higher. So just talk to us a little bit about that.
Excellent. Well, so Rob, when I think about the way that, the way technology is changing the way that we do our work, and that's really, across the world, that we have to be in front, and aligned with what we're seeing in terms of technology advancements. And so when you think about AI, right, and we talk a lot about how is AI advancing and how do we leverage that technology so that when we are looking at the different types of ways that of working, that we're leveraging technology in the infrastructure of what we do. So whether it is when you think about looking at, instead of sampling transactions, maybe you're looking at the entire, let's see, everything that's in accounts receivable, or you're looking at the entire entire balance, and you're looking for anomalies because you're able to leverage technology to be able to do that type of analysis for you. So we need to be thinking about how do we leverage that. ChatGPT, it's a great tool, but also could be a dangerous tool if not done and utilized correctly. So how do we, again, use these tools to really help us in thinking about the work and really advancing how individuals leverage the information? Because at the end of the day, I really believe it's important that we think about the way we can leverage technology in helping us when we think about recruiting, as well, and bringing more individuals into the profession. The younger generation is very much looking at organizations that are, fast track, that are driving change, that are really evolving the way that people work, the flexibility around that, but also feeling like there's a sense of, well, I see the value, in what I do, and so technology can really help us to create a greater sense of what we kind of call the fat middle, where you now have a lot of individuals who have immense amount of skills, but they're not entry level because they've gotten to a certain place in their career. But you have to have that level of experience and knowledge to be able to really further advance your customers or your businesses. So, but intelligence and leveraging technology to do that will be extremely helpful in helping us to advance in that space.
Yes, you're clearly on the cutting edge. You mentioned ChatGPT and AI. We know that ChatGPT can pass the bar exam now and can probably pass a CPA qualification. There are some quarters feeling threats from this. What do you feel are the big threats to the accounting profession as we see it today?
Well, so first I will tell you that while ChatGPT may try to take the CPA exam, it's taking a simulation of maybe past exams and questions,
Fair
but
enough.
has not passed the actual CPA exam. So
Fair
just
enough.
so
I
it's
stand corrected. Yeah.
but I would say in terms of the risk that if we are not so your risk in terms of utilizing technology or and such things as ChatGPT or its impact on the profession. I just want to make sure I'm clear on which way your question's going.
Well, certainly the role of an accountant these days is changing. We know that there's downward pressure on compliance fees and the bread and butter, the audit, the tax, a lot of stuff that accountants have been doing. Looking back historically, we know that there's more value placed on advisory and consulting services because that's what businesses need right now. When we look at the threats to the traditional accounting role, where would you say they are coming from?
Got it. Yes, thank you. So appreciate that clarification. Well, so I would say that it's multifaceted in that, first is that if organizations are not utilizing technology to advance how they do their work, they will go by the way of the dinosaur. So they have to figure out, how do I incorporate technology into the work that I do with my clients, because and also in business and industry, because if I don't, it definitely will have an impact. But I believe it also has an impact from the talent shortage as well. The people, in terms of the work that they want to do, if we're doing things the way that we have historically, we won't be able to get the same top tier talent to come into the organization with those bright minds to really help us think about ways that we can advance. I do know that I've experienced with different organizations, especially on the public accounting side, where they are leveraging technology so that they don't even have to meet in person with their clients. They can take that, like they talk with their clients all the time, but they're eliminating the paperwork because they require that everything be provided electronically so they can utilize the information, and it allows them to really speed up the work that they're doing. So it's how do you work creatively, right, to really drive this work forward. So I see that as probably one of the biggest challenges, as well as just if you're not utilizing it, it's kind of the risk of survival, to how you continue to operate.
Technology can be our friend, but it can also be an enemy. It's going forward so fast. You're very passionate about the younger generation. And when we look at the people taking accounting degrees, that's going down. When we look at people coming into the public accounting profession, that's going down in certain parts of the world. Does the profession of accounting have an image problem, or is that happening across all sectors everywhere, Okorie, from what you see?
So the pipeline is definitely something that I believe is an opportunity for us to improve upon. I think it's again multifaceted in that you've got a lower number of individuals who are being born, so birth rates are down. That's going to have an impact on the number of individuals who are going to go to college, and then the impact on the number of students who are going to ultimately go into accounting. Right, those are all spaces that are areas. The salaries that we pay, CPAs, that it's different than some areas that are really growing, such as technology or even other areas of finance. That has an impact as well. And then the type of work that we do, what we've historically done, I think that's a challenge too, in terms of creating an interest to make people want to say, yeah, I really like to be a part of that. And then I would say a fourth item would be understanding the value proposition and I'll say that the financial benefits that you can receive upon staying in the profession. But not knowing that, or being kind of that black box of what does it take to make partner, what does it take to make it to be a chief financial officer. The path to get there sometimes can be a little unknown, and if you don't know that, you might go into something that you think is a bit more clear, or that I can really get my salary that I prefer earlier on than what it will take to get you there later in your career. And so I believe that we have to work on all those aspects, as well as the cost of education. Education is not the same cost that it used to be, many years ago, even when I was in school. So that how do you make it more affordable for young people to get their college education, meet the requirements that are needed to sit for the exam, certified, but also feeling like there's value in the type of work that they do, and having the level of interest in what they do as well.
Is there any pressure on the business structures of accounting firms, that partner, that equity model? The young generation don't necessarily want to buy into that. They're not thinking that long term. Do you see any of that?
Definitely. And I think there has to be more to the story, but also like how do we kind of advance the process of people moving within firms? Like I would say that the structure for the larger firms has been the same for a very long time. You can expect that it's going to take you somewhere between 10 to 12 to 15 years sometimes to become a partner in a public practice. With a smaller practice, we're seeing that time frame can be shorter, but the rewards also can be different than they are with, say, a larger firm. But I believe at the same time, we have to really talk about what kind of skills are you bringing to the table? Are you someone who can possibly be a rainmaker and that you don't need 8 to 10 years to ultimately get to that same place that maybe someone else does take that long? We have to be flexible, as a profession in terms of how we reward and compensate individuals for, really bringing their best to the table and having have a greater impact on the organizations in which they work.
We had Herschel Frierson on the show recently. You'll appreciate he's the chair of the National Association of Black Accountants. Talk to us, Okorie, about diversity in the profession and where that's heading. We chaired a number of panels recently with some of the leading female influencers in accounting, managing partners of big firms across the world, heads of associations and networks. There is a lot of women in leadership positions, but we might argue not enough. So there's that whole diversity play. Where are you at with all that?
Well, I believe diversity of background, experience, ethnicity all play a really critical role in terms of our overall profession, making sure that we have seats at the table for everyone and that we're building bigger tables, right? So because there needs to be more views and perspectives represented. And I would say, I'm a very good friend of Herschel. I know him very well. I'm a lifetime member of the National Association of Black Accountants, or NABA Inc. And so I have a very strong affinity to the organization. But I do believe that we have not been a profession that has really brought more folks in to the degree that we need to. But I also see that shifting, and I see that when you think of individuals like me serving as the first African American male chair of the association in its now 37 year history. That's evolution. We're making some moves, and I come behind Kimberly Ellison Taylor, who you might have also met or exchanged.
She's been on the show too.
Yeah. So it's just we're seeing that when you look at our board now. If you were to take a picture of our global board, you would see the vastness of the diversity in both in ethnicity, but also in gender, experience that really brings a lot to the table. So I do believe that this can be a differentiator in terms of helping us to be, having greater perspectives of thought coming to the table, but also to really just advance the work that we're doing and to have everyone feel like there's a seat at the table for them to join what we're doing, and that we want them to be a part of this profession because we believe that it is among the best professions to really advance your career, to have a great family, and to really make an impact on economies in the world.
There's no doubt, Okorie, that trust is a problem across the world. Trust in the government and the political system in all countries is an all-time low. Trust in the education system, trust in the judicial system, trust in the health system, trust in any big organization is at a premium. When you look at the reputation of the accounting profession and public trust in what you're doing there, how do you assess your performance and how you're viewed?
That's a really deep question, right? And I would say something. So thank you for that. And I do believe that
it's my job to put you on the spot, Okorie, and it's your job to answer the tough questions.
And I would tell you that I think when you think about the impact that we've had, especially more recently during the pandemic, right? Having organizations to really survive right through the pandemic, working with the IRS on looking at strategies around how can we really help organizations and extend the tax deadlines, right? So that they're, dealing with the challenges that they were at that time to still, support the economy. Because I really believe that when you think about the largest number of businesses are small businesses, they are the foundation, of our economy, and that they need quality CPAs and accounting and finance professionals to really help them to keep their businesses strong and healthy, but also to grow. And so I believe that the profession, the fact that it's part of our name, CPA, Certified Public Accountant, we have the responsibility to the public to make sure that we're doing the right things and that they can, depend on what we're doing to ultimately support their organizations that they utilize and that they rely on for various goods and services. So I really do believe that we do have a very strong foundation in terms of our profession and in terms of the integrity and the brand of the CPA and accounting professionals. But it's something that we can't take for granted, that we have to consistently be doing the right things, making sure that we're upholding appropriate standards for the individuals who are entering the profession, but also for organizations and holding them accountable as well to meet those standards for reporting, so that people in the public can again rely on the information that ultimately is being certified and verified by accountants and CPAs.
That's a very diplomatic answer. You did that extremely well. I'm just thinking of the scrutiny that, say, Audit is under, or the Big Four, and that transparency, that accountability that you're promising there, that's much needed, and will give confidence to the business community out there that you guys are in charge. Now, I'd like to ask you an unusual question, and it's well qualified coming from a Brit that I am. When I talk to Americans about the political system there, your president apparently has very little power because the country is run by lobbyists and they hold the power. So I wanted to ask you an unusual question. You are chair of the biggest association in the world, and on the outside of it, it would look like you wield a huge amount of power. But actually, is the power divested in various regional and state associations in different ways, or do you actually have all the power that I perceive you to be as chair of this massive global organization?
Well, I can tell you for certain, I don't have all that, all being power, just to be absolutely clear.
But so you can't click your fingers and change happens just like that because you say so?
No, that is absolutely certain that I cannot do that. But let me tell you a little bit about the ecosystem.
Right.
So you have the AICPA and SEMA, which is again representing approximately 700,000 members across the world. We really look as a board to make sure that we're thinking about the issues around strategy of where we want to operate in terms of like across the world, where are opportunities where we should either be advancing the work, where we should be divesting, where we should hold steady, in terms of like where we engage. What are the different types of issues? How do we, in terms of support advocacy, both from governments in the environments in which we work, but also advocating for individuals, for small business, for large firms across the globe. These are spaces where we look to focus, but also what's next? How do we leverage AI and technology, and how do we create tools that really support CPAs and finance professionals to advance the work that they're doing in their respective spaces? So I look at it as that national or international group who are advocating and driving that. Now, at the same time, you have what we call the state societies, right? Which are, or at least in the U.S. So Cal CPA is a state society in which I came up in, right? And they do a lot of work on the local level. Right, so in each state, you have a state CPA society that is really driving the interest of members who often are members of both the state society and the association. Right, so how do we make sure that we're partnering and engaging together so that we can advance the interest of those members in the U.S. across the states, but even more broadly than that. Same thing from a SEMA perspective. When we look at the regions in which we operate. How do we make sure that we are really, again, driving support for those organizations that seek, accounting and finance services, across the world, and partnering with those, organizations as well. So the thing is, it's really more of how do we leverage this huge network, that we have, and that the ICP and SEMA combined really represents that global body that can convene and bring these different interests together in order to support the masses. And so that's what I look at, how we have, where our strength is really in partnership, bringing together the thought leaders across the world, making sure that we're advocating at the highest levels, and then bringing that down into all these different spaces where ideally we're working together.
You seem like a very soft-spoken, gentle person. But I would imagine, and I wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of you, but I would imagine, given the accounting profession, there are a lot of people that want to preserve the status quo. A lot of people that like things just as they are, probably some of the older accountants, to be fair. How good are you, Okorie, in putting your foot down or laying the law down or pushing back to those people that are not advocates for change like you are?
The thing is, I'm a firm believer in partnership. I also believe that it's important that you have to have a firm grasp of information, and you want to leverage data to really support your positions.
Yeah.
So it's not about hunches. It's not about theories or what I'd like to have. It's really, what does the data tell us are the right answers of how we take this profession forward, and leveraging that, and also understanding that people need to be heard. Like you will find where, I think I would agree with you that I can be a soft-spoken person, but I also am kind of very clear in, I shouldn't say kind of, I just am. I'm clear in the way that I think about things and how we're trying to drive things forward, and what are the levers that we need to pull to make that true. And so bringing people in is always my goal of, how do I understand where you're coming from, hear your perspective. If it's different than mine, understand that there's sometimes where we won't be aligned, but that we have to do the right thing to move things forward. But ideally talk to you, and upon understanding what are those things that are standing in your way from aligning with where we're trying to go, to start to pick those off. And then hopefully that brings you in. But knowing that you're not going to get everybody, right? And that's in any type of situation, you're not going to get everybody, but you want to get the majority, and have those individuals understand the value of where we're going, and to be able to see what is possible through our partnership and work together. And that's generally what I try to do.
Well said. So when it comes to the end of your tenure, how would you like to be remembered in terms of your legacy, or to what degree you were successful in your role as chair?
Thank you for that. This actually goes back. So I'll tell you, I taught a class. I was an adjunct professor at San Francisco State for a couple of years, and my class was on leadership. So it was leadership in action.
Right.
And I had the class go through a leadership exercise, which was just what you just stated. What do you want your legacy to be? Right. And in this particular case, you had to have a legacy that was only 6 words.
Whoa, that's tough.
But so my legacy.
So you're ready for this question then, right?
Hey, I'm ready, man. I'm ready, Rob. Is to live a life that mattered. Okay. And so very simple is to live a life that mattered.
6 words.
6 words, right? And so when I think about what I'm doing in terms of this role and the legacy in which I leave, which I'd like to advance our work in the 3 areas that we talked about. I'd like to see us drive greater change in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm very tied into looking at how we support historically Black colleges and universities to bring individuals who may not have historically have had a seat at the table or have been engaged, bring those individuals in. Alpha, Ascend, those are organizations that we should be driving and bringing forward in as well. And then making sure that we're supporting the massive, existence of CPAs and accounting professionals in general. That, I want people to be able to say that while, when Okorie was in his role, when he's left his role, that this was the impact that, he had. He created opportunities for greater diversity and bringing, a technology further into the work that we're doing, and helping people think about these processes to really advance what our interest is, again, in supporting the public. It's a huge task, right? Yes. And it's not as if it will be done in 1 year, right? And the great thing about in these roles that we're in is that I'm leveraging my vice chair year, which was last year, my chair year, which goes into 2024, and then I'll still be immediate past chair into 2025. So over that 3-year period, how am I actually helping to advance these different initiatives in supporting those who were before and after me in this space? And I'm looking forward to continue to do that. And my work does not end after being chair of the association. I plan to still very much be involved in the organization, but supporting who's coming next, which, on the association side will be Carla McCall and Simon Biddlestone. So those will be the folks who will be behind Sarah and I in helping them to continue to advance this work. So got our hands full, a lot of work to do, but I can't tell you, Rob, I'm extremely excited about it, and I'm very bullish on our profession.
Well, that's very well answered. In the last 60 seconds we have, Okorie, what makes you so excited about the future of accounting?
Well, I would say when I think about the young people who I get to meet and going across the country, as well as those who are, I would say, mid-level, even, further in their career, but really the young people who are really just their energy
Yeah.
about how they feel about the profession, how they want to change the world, and how they just need the support of individuals like me and you and others who really want to who can advance the profession, who can help mentor, develop, and support them. So that's another aspect that I'm highly interested in, which is mentorship and sponsorship, which I think is critical to helping them to succeed. So when you see that and you see that spark in someone and you can help them to achieve what they're looking at, it's inspiring. And again, it creates this energy that is infectious. And I believe that we just have a great profession that will be able to continue to impact economies, businesses, and firms and individuals for a long time to come.
Well, Okorie Ramsey, Chair of the AICPA and SEMA, it's been wonderful having you as a guest today. We so appreciate the passion and joy with which you address some very tricky questions. But yeah, it's been really impressive having you on the show, and thank you so much for your time and your insights.
Thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.